In my last video, I talked about the Sailor King of Pen, which has been one of my grail pens for a long time. But in the spirit of proving that you don't need to spend a lot of money to enjoy fountain pens and the fountain pen hobby, I thought we'd talk today about the Platinum Preppy, which is another one of my favorite pens. The first reason that this Platinum Preppy is one of my favorite pens is just how well it holds up and how easy it is to use. This particular Preppy I bought in Hong Kong about 3 years ago, and it's been banging around my bag, across my desks, moved with me to I think 4 different cities since then. And as you can see, it's held up pretty well. I think if I gave it a good cleaning, it could probably look almost new. This Preppy cost me about 30 Hong Kong dollars at the time, which is about $3.50. And I bought it in the basement of the City Plaza Mall, for those of you who are familiar with Hong Kong. So imagine that, being able to walk into just a regular mall and see things like this on the bookshelf. The other thing, as noted by the title, the converter is significantly more expensive than the pen. I think this converter was $7 or $8, but I do think the Preppy is nice enough to justify pairing it with a converter, if that's your thing. So holds up really well, unbeatable price. So to demonstrate why I think the Preppy is such a good value, I wanted to take a look at another inexpensive pen. This, of course, is the Pilot Varsity. And this is, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this pen, this is the disposable pen from Pilot. Now, I know a lot of people refill these and have some good luck using them over and over again. But even ignoring the fact that the Preppy is designed to be a reusable, refillable pen, and this isn't, there are some other key differences that make the Preppy a much nicer pen. The main thing for me is the quality of the plastic. In terms of the Varsity, this feels just like a very cheap disposable type of plastic that you would find in an everyday desk pen. You can see it sort of moves under pressure. This section is made of a very, very flimsy feeling plastic. It kind of reminds me of the plastic from the TWSBI Go, which, another pen that I'm not a fan of. But overall, the Varsity is just, it feels like what it is, which is a disposable fountain pen. The Preppy, on the other hand, even though it doesn't cost significantly more, it has some very cool features aside from being refillable, like I mentioned. The plastic is as nice as, any mid-tier plastic Japanese fountain pen. The section is much, much nicer. It's much smoother and a much thicker plastic than what you find on the Varsity. And it even has, for $3.50, Pilot or Platinum's slip and seal mechanism. So you can see the spring up top here, which prevents the pen from drying out easily, which I think is just kind of comical for the price range. The other thing that I think is interesting about the Preppy is the fact that the nib is shared across a variety of pens. Now, that in itself is not really unique to the Preppy. Here, as you can see, are some Pilot pens of slightly different price ranges. The Kakuno, I'm a big fan of this pen. This is one of my favorite pens to keep around. You can see the nib that it has. This nib is actually from this Prera, ironically. But you can see my point. this pilot nib is shared across pens like the Kakuno. This is the, I think it's called the 78G, same nib. Quick tangent about this pen, the 78G. I read years and years ago that this pen was discontinued by Pilot. And then having gone to Asia to live for a few years, I can very much guarantee you that it is not discontinued and it is widely available in Asia for quite cheap. And of course, the Prera, which is a pen in a very different price range, but as you can see, same nib. And it's not just these pens. I think Pilot uses this nib across pens like the Explorer, the Metropolitan. I'm not sure if I'm missing any, but basically any of the Pilot's pens that are more expensive than the Varsity and less expensive than the, what would be the first pen that doesn't use it? The Lucina, I believe. So any pen that's really within that bracket uses the same nib. But what I find interesting about the Preppy, the Platinum Preppy, is that it takes it a step further. Not only does it share the same nib with other Platinum pens, it actually shares the entire section. So this here is a Platinum Plaisir. This is a pen in the $15 to $20 range. And as you can see, it not only shares the nib with the section, it shares the entire forward section. So you can, if you want to, switch out the bodies, and here you have a Preppy with the Plaisir section in it, and then you can put this over here. And that's the same with the you know, any pen that Platinum makes between this price range and this one, which is the Preppy. There's some China exclusive model. I think people call it the Shooting Star, which is just, you know, a slightly different Preppy. It's you know, about the same in material quality and price. Then there's the Prefontaine, or whatever that pen is called, that they introduced in the US a couple years ago, and this pen, which use the exact same section and nib. So from that perspective, I think the Preppy is a pretty great deal, because you can get essentially the same writing experience for $3.50 that you would get in, you know, a $20 Plaisir. But perhaps the most important reason that I'm such a big fan of the Platinum Preppy is that it is a surprisingly good writer. It is surprisingly consistent in terms of, you know, if you tried out different pens with the same nib, they're surprisingly consistent, which is not something that I can say about Lamy, for example, or other pens that you might consider in the sort of inexpensive price range. And the other thing is that even though the medium nib on the Preppy is slightly less common than the fine and the extra fine, it is actually a very, very good medium nib. So one thing I'll show you, which nib is this? This is the medium. So you can see the fine nib on the Preppy that you usually find looks like this. This is the most common nib, the 0.3 millimeter fine. And you can see the medium nib, it has significantly more tipping that you can see from the front. If you can compare those, the medium has significantly more tipping. And then if you turn them around, I don't know how well you can see this on the camera, but the medium nib, which is the one on the left here, has a significantly larger ball of tipping material than the fine. And I just wanted to quickly show you how this writes. So if you don't mind, I'll just use the Plaisir body since I swapped them around earlier. But this is my trusty Stylology notebook. And I just wanted to show you how this writes. Very reliable, very consistent, very well tuned. Really hard to beat that for $3.50. Move the Preppy back in. So like I said in the the beginning of the video, it really doesn't take a lot of money to have fun with fountain pens. You know, I spend way too much money and time on fountain pens, and something that, you know, my poor suffering wife has to deal with. But in terms of pens that just keep lying around on my desk that I use very consistently day in and day out, the Preppy very easily makes that list. I reach for this pen all the time to take notes, to plan things, or even when I want to just have some fun with pens. This is not a bad choice. In my view, it's not just a great pen for $3.50. It's a great pen, period. So definitely worth pairing with a $6 or $8 converter if you're so inclined. Anyway, hope that was fun, and thanks for watching.